Hey guys, it's PurpleAlmonds, and welcome to my voiceover of Lazy Day, a Wiishu and Last Guardian fanart. Well, sort of. You see, I was gonna make a voiceover video for this, but I kind of just recorded it, left it alone for a day, and then I re-listened to it and I cringed. Considering this is about a 21-minute video, and I have not been able to get past the 3-minute mark in terms of the voiceover, I'm just gonna let this run with some background music. It's a bit of a bummer because I honestly had a lot of stuff to say in this video, but I think that I'm just getting way too worked up about it. It's become less of a fun project and more of a chore, so perhaps in my next video I will do a little bit more of a coherent voiceover, and hopefully that video will be a lot shorter. I guess here and there I'll try putting in some subtitles just to say what's going through my head. Either way though, I do hope that you enjoy this video. I worked really hard on this project, and even if it's without any vocal commentary, I look forward to sharing it with you guys. So I guess off we go in absolute silence. On second thought, just after I finished that recording just now, I decided, okay, what the heck, I'm just gonna watch this video and give you some live commentary about it. Right over here, it seems like I am kind of doing a callback to my previous piece, Playtime, where I'm basically headcanoning like when Wiishu and Jack moved to Brighton, they wanted to have a pet, and then I was thinking they could adopt a pet Trico. So that's my little callback to that. And this is probably the first of many instances where I spent maybe a little bit too much time on a single aspect of the piece. I think it ultimately gets bleached out when I add the lighting, but I guess it's nice to just see it as it is. Nothing much else to say about this, so I'll just wait patiently for the next relevant thing to happen. Okay, let's see, it seems like I moved on to the houseplants. The houseplant was actually something that I picked up from the Google SketchUp. So is the same thing with the candle holder to house the little cactus candles. Those were pretty fun to draw. Initially I wanted to hand lasso each and every one of them, but then my hand was like, screw that, you're just gonna duplicate them. I made one candle and duplicated and flipped it, maybe tweaked the flames a little bit so they didn't look like they're all the same candles. And here I think I'm just adding some color accents to the plant so it doesn't look too boring. Kind of a futile attempt, honestly, because it's ultimately covered by the Trico. Oh, laptop. This was a bit of a fun thing to do because at the time I was still running on the kind of the last bits of the fumes of my obsession with OneShot. It's a cute little RPG maker game that I fell in love with, and prior to this project I hosted a giveaway just to celebrate its release. Don't want to really give any spoilers of what the game's like, so I'll just leave a link in my description so you can check it out for yourself. But yeah, seriously, you should check it out. It's a really great game and you won't regret playing it. Yes, the claw marks. These were kind of a little detail that I eventually removed, but then at the time my reasoning behind putting them in is that Tricos are pretty big creatures, and in an enclosed environment they are bound to scratch it up a bit. And while I was at it, I decided to do some weathering on the coffee tables, give it a couple dings here and there, cause I felt like when I started shading it, it might start looking plasticky without these accents. And now I'm doing a bit of the lighting pass. I didn't quite know what kind of layer style to use it with, or how bright the light coming from the window should be, so it's just a lot of kind of noodling around with it. And later in the video, there is a lot more noodling involved in terms of the lighting. More on that later though. Let me see, we're working on the cushion now. Oh, tablet, lighting. I guess it's just lighting pass in general. There's more props to come, but right now I guess I'm just trying to do almost like a vertical slice of what the picture should look like. Honestly speaking though, I think I just wanted to move on to something beyond the flats because I've been working on just that for probably a couple hours now. a lot of these efforts in getting all these details down perfectly, or painting in these details or shading at all, kind of end up being futile because they're ultimately covered by Wiishu and the Trico. But at the time, I didn't really care. I just wanted to have fun and shade shit for once. I think, yeah, this is like kind of me beginning to try to paint Wiishu, but I think in a few seconds I kind of just give up on that because Wiishu just posted her new video about what's in her bag, so I just added like a whole lot of new props in there. And then also as an afterthought, I was like, oh, Mortimer gave Wiishu a butterfly thing, so I guess I should put that in there. And the calendar, I kind of wanted to do a reference for Jack's birthday, which was the initial release date of the piece, but it kind of came and went. It instead came out, I released this on Valentine's Day. But then I realized in the canon of this piece, it wouldn't make sense that the calendar read February 7th, 2017, because it would be way past that by the time they moved to their new flat in Brighton. But my defense to that is, it's an expired calendar maybe. That's my story and I'll stick to it. Right now, the colors are kind of all over the place. Later in the video, I think I'm gonna start unifying the colors, but then at the expense of the local colors of the actual props. But I did eventually compile all the props I painted together into a layout. I guess I can show it to you at the end of the video. Funny enough, it might actually look better than the actual props in this piece, because after I finished this painting, I went back and repainted and tweaked each of these individual props before compiling them together in the layout. Once again, it's a lot of attention to detail that just ultimately goes nowhere. It seems like I moved on to redrawing the butterfly. It's one of the few reference images that I looked up at the last minute. The placeholder sketch from earlier, it didn't quite work, so I had to completely redraw the sketch before moving on to the flats for this guy. At this point, I thought to myself, okay, as much as I love drawing props for Wiishu, I needed to bring a little bit more of the Last Guardian into the piece. So I popped in a Trico statue, just referenced a screen grab from Jack's playthrough of the game, and just popped it right in there. I don't think I put anything else in there that kind of tethers this piece to the Last Guardian, but I felt it was good enough. At least, I hope so. And at this point, I suppose it's a fair question as to why Wiishu and Trico haven't made an appearance yet. The answer is, at work, I was doing like a heck of a lot of character design, and that can really wear you down. So when I got home, I wanted to just put off doing anything character related as long as possible and find literally any excuse to prolong the background painting process. Case in point, at around this time, I took another look at Wiishu's social media, and then I discovered a cute photo of apparently a third succulent plant that she had. So I went ahead and painted it in and gave the other two cacti a little companion on the coffee table. And yes, the calendar. It was the one thing in the whole picture that I probably didn't look up a reference image for. So of course, I have to completely redraw it. And as I did some of the hand lettering for the calendar, I did a little bit of extra research and realized that Jack's birthday was in fact on February 7th and not the 5th. So of course I was a little bit embarrassed, but I changed it accordingly. Oh yes, the feathers. They're a bit of an interesting story. I painted them in, thought they were too light if they kept the original white color. Then I made them brown, but then they looked like turds. So later on I changed them back into white feathers. You're gonna see a lot of this happening, this reworking of props, especially much later in the video. That's primarily because when the characters come in, everything changes and you have to kind of dial down the noise in the background so the characters will take center stage. Unfortunately for past me, that thought doesn't really cross my mind until much later. Just take a look at me adding watermarks on the table and adding little highlights on the candle holder, and just adding highlights on the shiny bits of the keychain, and what else? Shiny glass on the picture frame, and I think eventually, yes, wood grain. Just so many things that are ultimately kind of dialed down for the sake of the final piece. Ah, yes. I think right now, well, I kind of already got into it earlier, but I'm finally getting in with the airbrush and adding some ambient occlusion to the piece. It's something that I've started using fairly recently, I would like to say, just to add a little bit of extra depth to my drawing. It kind of works, maybe. I'd like to think so. It is, after all, a little trick that I learned from work, just from the times that I've been painting over Maya renders, and I noticed just how nicely the ambient occlusion layers helped make the piece look all the more three-dimensional. I think right now I'm just adding some finishing touches, like the dewdrops on the cacti. I wanted to add some kind of tiny little details again. Once again, I was trying to procrastinate from doing characters. Oops, and we're already past that. Let's see what we're working on now. Candles. Ah, yes, adding the flame details and... Okay, now we're doing the background again. And I'm working way too fast to narrate for this. What even is going on? Lighting changes? Yeah, oh, God rays, yes. That was a fun thing to do. It was something that I was more comfortable doing because I was familiar with the process since I did it dozens and dozens of times. And over here, ah yes, the cactus. I wasn't too happy with my first pass of how the spikes looked, so I just completely redid it. And once again, this is probably just me procrastinating, but to the benefit of the picture, I suppose, because it does look nicer for it. And also adding even more dewdrops on the third succulent because I forgot to put it there earlier on. And even more ambient occlusion. I feel like I am being kind of a broken record now. I'm essentially just adding these tiny little details here and there. I don't know what else to say. What am I doing? Noodling around with the details forever and ever and ever for all eternity. And at this point, honestly, I'm just stalling for time. Just waiting for me to start painting the characters already. Honestly, I believe I have run out of every single thing that I had to talk about the background. Oh, finally, I'm starting with the character already. I thought I would never start on them. So with that, let's just get back into the thick of things. It appears that I am just redrawing them again. In the earlier stages that was not recorded, I had a lot of trouble just drawing them all together. I wasn't too happy with how they ended up, so that was why I kept on procrastinating. Well, one amongst many reasons I kept on procrastinating on it. Now it seems like I'm getting into kind of a better place with the drawing. I think pretty soon I'll be confident enough to get started with the flats. Ah, and good timing. Flats it is right now. I didn't really do much to stray from my formula of doing flats, except actually with Wiishu's eyelids. I tried to do a painterly thing that kind of didn't really work with the entire piece, so I think I get rid of it much later on. I do think that this pass at Wiishu is a lot better than the first one I did, like way earlier in the video. And at this point the colors look pretty good. It goes through a lot of different phases in terms of like color-wise and like temperature-wise, what works best for the composition, but right now I really like how the local colors are looking. And it looks like I'm doing some last-minute redraws with the hand, because anatomy is not my strong suit. Character drawing, honestly, isn't my strong suit, if you would believe me. Oh, the baby bottle. Let's talk about that for a bit. That was gonna be one of the stronger light sources in the piece, but then I think I dialed it down later on because the rim light from the glowing green baby bottle with all the Trico-barrel juices in it, it just kind of clashed with the warm tones for the rest of the piece. Ah yes, that tattoos. I initially struggled with it, but then it was actually pretty easy to do once I pulled up reference from my previous piece and just copied it from there. The glasses though, those posed to be a bit of a challenge because I didn't quite know how glasses sat on a person's head, so I kind of just winged it. Like I do honestly with most of my drawings. Now working on the watch. Nothing much to say about it. It's just another last minute reference that I found, I believe, on Wiishu's Instagram this time. Ah yes, the rim light. As you can see, I think I just wanted to add a little bit of lighting on the character, once again getting a bit impatient to get shading done. The Trico, I think this was one of my more zen moments in painting this piece, because by now I kind of have Trico painting down to a science. So even just drawing all these little feather patterns, it just became a very relaxing, honestly kind of mindless task that kind of helped me get a little bit more calmed down. It was a lovely little reprieve from just all the details that I kind of had to figure out from scratch with the background and such. Just drawing something familiar, it's just a very welcome break from it all. Right now the colors are pretty much the default Trico colors, but I think pretty soon I'm gonna switch to, colorizing, referencing, I believe it's called the Blue Tit. It was one of the birds that I discovered. I think they were native to Ireland, and I liked the colors of it, so I kind of just rolled with it. One of the challenges was that they had a really subtle gradation from the blue colors to the kind of yellowish green color, so that was a really nice thing that I could work on. Well, it seems like I'm gonna just be happily painting Trico feathers for a while, so if you don't mind, I'm just gonna take a bit of a breather and stop talking for a bit. Okay, well, that was a bit of a short-lived break, but as always, let's move forward. It seems like I've fallen into the trap of doing the rim lights first before the actual lighting, but hey, I did not fall too deeply in that trap. There is my brightness and contrast level adjustments that I am tweaking right now before eventually moving on to the rim lights. There we go. And at the moment, the rim lights are a little bit too saturated for my taste. Hopefully I get that fixed up, along with the skin tone, which looks too zombie-like. I don't know when it happened, but suddenly your skin tone looks really gray and lifeless, which is not what I'm going for. In hindsight, that's probably why I'm trying to overcompensate with the saturation of the rim light and the subsurface scattering. At this point in the piece, I am pretty much done with drawing everything. All I'm doing right now really is just adjusting the colors left and right. This kind of finagling is primarily because I did not make myself a color palette on the get-go. And this lack of a color palette is probably why I lose so many details in the props in the name of, say, atmospheric perspective or separating the planes of the piece. If I actually thought more about color grouping and such, all the details in the props wouldn't be lost in what I see as an orange haze right now. Well, the orange haze actually might work to my advantage. Wiishu did mention that orange was her favorite color, so I suppose it kind of works out in a way. But all the same, I do want to try introducing some cooler colors in my future pieces. More consciously, that is. I do see it in the wing of the Trico and a little bit on the wall on the staircase, but I want it to be more of a conscious effort to include more cool colors in general. While we're on the topic of self-improvement though, I suppose I can just give you the whole list of things that I feel like I need to improve on after this learning experience of a project. 1, I need to have a clear scope. I know that I got super excited with getting a lot of extra props in there, but to finish it at a feasible amount of time, I do need to just make a deadline for myself and say, okay, I can only spend this much time on this piece before I go absolutely bonkers. And this leads to my second point, which is to work not harder but smarter and healthier too. I think that it would have been to my benefit if I took the time to actually do a black and white value pass and even a color palette. I noticed that in the video, just looking through it again and again, most of what was happening was me going back and forth with the values and the colors of all the little individual props, and that ate up on so much time, which could have been saved if I took the preliminary measures. Now I could go on and talk about my cornucopia of health problems that just sprung from working too much on this project, but it would seem that we're getting to the end of this video. So I will spare you my honestly whining, and without further ado, here is the final piece. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.